Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, one moment, please.
Yeah.
Okay, test 1, 2. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Are we ready to get started, Michael?
Yeah, we're ready to begin. Just the floor is all yours. So please give a lot of applause for Neil.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's 9 a.m. here in the U.S. and thanks for spending your weekend here at the ACE presentation. Okay, just my obligatory slide. Let me share my screen. One moment. Okay. Okay. And is my slide visible? Okay.
Yes.
So unfortunately, perfect. I won't be able to see you because my screens are configured in a way that won't allow me to see. But Michael, you can interrupt me at any time audibly if anyone has like a question. All right, I'm going to get started. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Neil, a developer advocate at Atlassian. I've been with Atlassian for about 7.5 years. And as a developer advocate, I advocate on behalf of all developers that build apps on top of Atlassian's platform. That includes customers, solution partners, marketplace partners, anyone really that wants to build on top of the platform. Today, we're going to be learning about Rovo, Atlassian's latest DAI innovation, and Rovo agents, which can help your teams work faster, smarter, and more effectively. I'm going to give a little bit of background on Forge for those that may not be familiar with it. That's our cloud development platform, and which is how I'm going to build some custom Rovo agents with code. I'm going to escape out of here just to take a look at the room and ask a question. Let me stop my share just for a second. Just raise your hands. How many here in the room have actually used Rovo before? Anyone? Is anyone here familiar or know what Rovo is? All right. Well, great. I think then that gives me some a good place to a good basis to know where to start, so that I'm not talking about something that you might not be familiar with. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so our agenda, I'm going to start with a high-level overview of Atlassian's Rovo, give a brief introduction to Forge. I'm going to live demo, since no one here probably has used Rovo yet, which is a product built built with Atlassian intelligence. I'm going to show you what Rovo is, some of its functionality, and then I'm going to build a Rovo agent from scratch using Forge. If time allows, I actually have an example app that's in our developer documentation, and it has a little bit more of an advanced integration, and it's a little more fun. And then I'll wrap up with some Q&A. So let's start with a Rovo overview. So what is Rovo? Rovo is an AI-powered product that elevates teamwork through powerful AI-human collaboration. It transforms how teams discover and use knowledge within an organization. And Rovo is based on 3 pillars: find, learn, and act. And in the first pillar, find, Rovo unlocks a world-class enterprise search engine. So it helps you quickly find the knowledge you need to get your work done. Rovo Search makes finding information easier and faster across not just Atlassian products, but any connected SaaS apps or proprietary data sources. So and let's imagine instead of just being able to search Confluence, you can also search across Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, and let's say other platforms that you use, Microsoft SharePoint and Teams, GitHub, Google Drive, Slack. It's essentially a nice, powerful, universal search. We spend a lot of time searching in our jobs, and anything that we can do to help reduce the amount of time searching is time well saved. Second, Rovo provides a, one second, sorry, let's have a, okay, apologies. The second pillar is learn. And this provides a rich set of AI tools to help you learn and gain insights from the most complex information and data sets. Rovo Chat, the chat interface, similar to like how you might chat with ChatGPT or Google Gemini, excuse me, a chat is part of the learn pillar. And it serves as an expert to everything in your company. It knows the people, it knows your projects, it knows your issues, your pages, and the way that things work within your organization. And as a part of the last pillar, ACT pillar, are Rovo agents. And these are the teammates, that the AI-powered teammates to help you move work forward. So agents take knowledge and they turn it into action. Agents are experts at streamlining complex processes, solving challenging problems, and managing repetitive tasks. So out of the three pillars, find, learn, and act, we're going to be focused on that last one, which is focusing on agents in ACT. So with Rovo, there are out-of-the-box agents that come with the product, and then you can build custom agents as well. And when you're using Rovo, you get about 20 agents available to you out of the box, and about 15 agents that were built by the Atlassian ecosystem partners. And you can install them by the marketplace, and the list is growing. And these agents help you help you with common use cases across any organization or industry. The agents that are available out of the box are also intended to provide you with some inspiration for what's possible when it comes to Rovo agents, and maybe you want to build your own. And I say inspiration because you can build your own. You have the capability of creating your own custom agents. And there are an infinite number of possibilities allowing you to make your own agents to solve unique and specific use cases. So there are two ways to build agents. And again, agents are just these things that you talk with, right? That you're chatting with. You can build an agent with code and without code. And so in the no code situation, Rovo, the product, comes with a UI-driven agent building tool. So you can create your own Rovo agents in a no code fashion. So I've been talking a lot about this. I'm just going to give you a demo of kind of what Rovo is, since I think that the folks here, since you haven't seen it yet. So I'm just going to go to my one of my testing instances here. And here we go. So I'm just in a project in Jira. I'm in one called employee onboarding. And here's this thing. You maybe haven't seen it yet, but if you're in Atlassian Cloud, and by the way, if you want to see Rovo for yourself, you can just go to go.atlassian.com/cloud-dev, and you can get your own free instance as a developer, right? It's called the Cloud Developer Bundle, and it gives you all these things here, but you can also get your own running license of Rovo for free. So here in my test instance, I'm going to click on this little chat thing here. And again, if you've used ChatGPT or Google Gemini, it's very similar. So let's say, for instance, I want to ask the question, what is the most important issue that needs to be worked on next? Make this a little bigger. And I'm just chatting not to a specific agent. I'm just chatting to Rovo in general. And it scanned all the things. It says, hey, the most important issue that needs to be worked on in the EO project is the express checkout feature, right? So this is, again, that conversational AI conversation we're having. Well, when I was talking about agents, you can also choose an agent. So for instance, I'm going to browse the different agents, and these are the ones that are out of the box. So let's say I want to go to the issue organizer, or yeah, let's just try that one. And this one is prompt. It's programmed to find and updating issues, and your project is quick and easy. This agent can move issues into sprints, assign them into epics, etc. So suggest some epics for my issues that are pending. And so this agent has a very particular mission, and that's to help me with organizing my issues. So you can see the work that it's doing. It's analyzing my question, it's searching for the issues. Oh, and of course, I couldn't find any epics because I don't have any epics in here. But you get the gist of it, right? There's all of these agents, and I can have it, depending on what I wanted to do or what I'm trying to get done. As an example, if you're writing a blog post or you want to make a post on social media, there's an agent for that. If you want to do some, if you're a product manager and you have product requirements, you can get feedback on product requirements. You can generate PRDs, you can have them review it. And that's the idea. Now, when I said that you can getting back to creating your own, let's say I'm in Confluence and I'm writing a document. In fact, I'll talk about a real project. I'm working with the Atlassian learning team on some new learning content. And I am not an instructional designer, and I don't really, I talk to developers mostly, but I'm not an expert when it comes to those kinds of things. So I might I might create an agent to help me with content. So let's see if there's any content agents in here. Comms crafter, not really. Let's just say, for instance, I want to create a new agent in Rovo that I can chat with that is an expert at something. So let's create your agent, and it says, describe what you want your agent to do. I want my agent to help me come up with a content learning plan. My agent should be an instructional design leader that understands how to put together curriculum. So we're creating an agent by having a conversation with Rovo. And it says, I've set up the initial profile. How about the curriculum maestro? Sure, that's a great name. So now I'm again creating this agent with no code, and it created its name already. Excuse me. Great. The name is the curriculum maestro. To start, what specific goals? Goals are that I want to create a content learning path and plan for students who might be customers, partners, or anyone else interested in the content I'm crafting. So you get the gist, right? I'm just having this conversation. No code is involved here. And by the end of all of this, I should have one. Here we go. Are there any specific task requirements? Tasks, yes. It should ask about the audience that my content learning plan is for. It should ask me about things like objectives and other things. Again, I'm no expert, but I rely on the agent's expertise in learning materials and education. So when I create this agent, ultimately, hopefully I can get through this quickly. This agent now is also available to all of my other team members. Should it be okay? So it's asking, hey, how about how do you want it to communicate? The communication style, the tone. It should be casual. I want people to feel comfortable, especially if they're not learning design experts. Okay, I've updated. Is there anything specific? Okay, here we go. Nope, please continue. I just want to get to the end so we can actually have some agent. Great. Otherwise, proceed to the next steps. Okay, so we can go to next. And this is what it came up with. So here's the name, the description of our agent, instructional design leader for creating content learning paths. How do you want it to behave? So perhaps you've heard the the term prompt engineering. And the idea is that when you have a conversation with let's say ChatGPT, of course you can jump right into questions and you can get some answers. But it's best when you provide a very detailed prompt so that it is specific about what it's expecting from you, the user, and what the user is expecting as output, right? So these are the prompts or the instructions, and Rovo, from our conversation, took all the things that I was talking about, put them in here. Here's some conversation starters, the kind of like prompts for the user. And let's say I only wanted to use things within Confluence. I don't want it to go everywhere else, just my content inside Confluence. So this essentially helps scope what Rovo, this agent, has access to. I don't want it to go across all of my organization. I just want it to go inside Confluence. In fact, I'm not even going to select spaces, but you can have your custom Rovo agent only pull data and access data from certain areas of Atlassian products. I'm not going to have it do anything else here. Well, maybe I'm not sure about adding actions. Oh yeah, let's say we wanted to be able to add comments to a page. It can create a page. Let's save that and let's create our curriculum maestro. Great. Now it's made. I'm inside here, and I'm gonna create a new. Let's just have a conversation here. I want to go back to the start. Whoops, sorry. Let's go back to the start in Confluence. And I'm going to create a page and start a conversation with my new, let's not that page. Create page. And we'll call it the Forge Learning Plan. And I'll put a little info box here. This page is for coming up with a plan for people to learn how to develop on Forge. So let's go find this brand new agent that we just created. And hopefully it's somewhere. So my agents, there it is, the Curriculum Maestro. By the way, my real name is not Beyonce, it is Neil. That's just my user's name. Okay, here we go. And so here's the conversation we're having with Curriculum Maestro, and the prompts that they're kind of like these pre-baked things to conversation starters, we call them. How do I start a content learning plan? So you can just have this conversation, and it is now the agent is essentially like it's behaving as if it is a content learning expert, and so it's going to here, define your audience, set the learning objectives, organize the content. And it got this with a combination of the prompts that I provided, but also it's a well-trained large language model, right? So let's say the audience is primarily Atlassian customers, ones that use Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, etc. They may or may not be developers, but my goal is to get them to learn how to develop on Forge. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of this, but the idea, you get the idea, right? We created I gave a Rovo overview of what it does. I created our own agent without any code at all, right? And then ultimately I can have this thing create pages for me in a plan, etc. Have it look, I can have it analyze content because we gave it access to be able to read our Confluence page data. So it can pull that in and you can essentially have a conversation with it. So again, that was creating a Rovo agent with no code. Now, building Rovo agents with code. So for more complex and tailored use cases, we have an agent building platform on Forge. And not only does Forge enable like marketplace partners or third-party developers to create custom agents, but it allows anyone in the company and as well as Atlassian solution partners to create agents that are custom built just for your company use. So I have a video on how to build Rovo agents with Forge, and let's see, maybe I could just show you how I'll do it from scratch with right from the command line. So before I do that, let me stop sharing for a second. Raise of hands. How many in the room have ever built something with Forge before? Anyone? Has anyone who here? Okay, I see one hand back there. Would anyone benefit from me just giving a very quick overview of what Forge is? Anyone? Okay, good. That's enough hands. So let me just it'll be a very very quick overview. Just let me find the right slides to show. One moment. Okay, so maybe this will be a good one. All right, let me share my screen again. One moment, please. I always make the assumption that people are familiar with what the heck I'm talking about, but let's go here. All right, so Forge is Atlassian's cloud native extensibility platform. So if you've ever built a script or an app on data center or server that was using a framework called P2 or plugins 2, there isn't a way if you've ever been to Marketplace, you probably have seen apps, or maybe you're an Atlassian user, you've used them. This is our new generation platform to build apps. So what kind of things can you build with it? I'm going to speak broadly in the types of apps that you can build with Forge and their general capabilities. A Forge agent is just one kind of app. So the first type of app you can build with Forge is what I call a UI-based app. With Forge, it's really easy to extend Jira or Confluence's product UI. For example, if you want to build an app that enhances Jira's UI by adding new pages, new sections, or adding some new information to the Jira issue view, this is what I refer to as a UI-based app. If your team has experience building any kind of custom automations or scripts, this is another thing that you can do with Forge. It's not UI based, but maybe you want to perform tasks in the background after being triggered by an event, like a value that changes on an issue or content changing on a page. Somebody leaves a comment, and you want your app to do something on that. You can build an app that does that. It reacts to product events. You can also build. You can tell your Forge app to run things on a scheduled basis. Let's say, for instance, you want to generate a daily report, but you don't want a user having to generate this report. You just want it to run daily or hourly or whatever. You can also run a Forge app on a fixed time interval. Additionally, if you're building like an integration, you can instantiate or run your app remotely. Like you can have another system make an API call into your Forge app and execute your Forge app. So back in speaking of integrations, Forge is great for this. So let's say, for instance, you want to build a bridge between Jira and some other product or platform, right? A CRM, an ERP, some build, dev, test, CI/CD tools, right? Any authorized system, it'll work. You can build integrations in between your Forge app and external systems. We're going to talk about this in the next presentation, but workflows, so custom workflows. You can create Forge-powered validators, conditions, and post functions, and you do all this with code. Unlike what I just demonstrated with the Rovo agent with no code, of course, this is all in code, and the code is going to be Node.js or JavaScript. So in this case, you can build advanced workflows. Let's say the in product, the things that are kind of built into Jira, the workflows and the automation rules. If you use automation for Jira out of the box, if those things aren't powerful enough, this gives you a lot more flexibility. And let's say that your customer requires a workflow that is super, super complex. This is where Forge fits perfectly. Within a workflow, which I'll show you in a little bit, you can do all kinds of things. Logic, you can make API calls in real time within Jira or even outside. And you can stop a transition from an issue from transitioning or allow it, etc. And then Another thing you can use Forge for is building, even if you let's say you need your own bespoke custom field or custom field type. Let's say the custom fields or the field functionality is not part of the off-the-shelf offering. With Forge, you can do that too. So you can build Forge apps for Jira and Confluence, but you can also build them for Bitbucket, JSM, Compass, and now Rovo. Real quick, the benefits of building an app with Forge, rapid app development. Forge is used by thousands, if not tens of thousands or more, customers, solution partners, and marketplace developers. And it really makes it easy in terms of going from zero, which you're going to see me do. I'm going to build apps from scratch to shipping, a basic functional app. You can literally create and deploy a scaffolded hello world app, into simple app within minutes and have it running in production and then it's installed on your site, testing, etc. Forge handles a lot of heavy lifting for you. It does things like authentication, authorization, etc. Forge was built with security in mind. So apps that you build on Forge are hosted on Atlassian infrastructure. So this addresses a lot of security concerns as well as scale and performance concerns. You don't have to manage your own infrastructure. You don't have to stand up servers on Amazon or Heroku or anything. You don't have to run your own databases. Compute and storage are part of Forge. And Forge has a ton of ways to extend our products. So you can seamlessly integrate, into the cloud products. And then you also have access to hundreds and hundreds of existing REST APIs. So by default, Forge runs completely on Atlassian's cloud. That means no data is egressed or it doesn't leave Atlassian's platform. By default, data does not come in. Compute and storage, completely part of it. That being said, you can also punch through the firewall, essentially, right? You can give your Forge app the ability to integrate with external platforms. On the screen we have GitHub, Amazon, whatever. You can make API calls externally. You just have to define that in your Forge app. And when the admin installs your Forge app, it's going to tell them, hey, you're trying to access OpenAI, .com. Are you sure that you want to do that? It's like an OAuth flow. Okay, so that's a nutshell of what Forge is. And you can find out more if you're like, hey, if you go to developer.atlassian.com, you click on this build a Forge app. This will help you understand, it'll help you just get started really quick. There's some steps in here, like how to install the Forge CLI, getting your own dev instance, etc. If you just kind of follow along, you'll be able to, get started. A lot of information here, but at the end of the day, once you install the Forge CLI, if you're on Windows, Mac, or Linux, it's all the same. Once you log in, you're going to be able to hop into your, I'll just do this right now, hop into your command line and do something like this. In fact, I'm going to just jump into building a Forge agent a Rovo agent with Forge. One moment. And I'm going to type in this command, Forge create. And this is how easy it is. Actually, hello, Kenya. I'll just do a really quick UI based one, so you can kind of see like what it does, because maybe the agent isn't. So since there were so many folks that were not familiar, so I'm in my Forge terminal. I typed in Forge create up here. I gave it a name, hello Kenya. I'm just going to go to, I want to create a Jira app, and let's just create a Jira issue panel. And you can learn more about what a Jira issue panel is in a second, but I'd rather just show you, because this probably should take just 2 minutes. And then we'll go back into building a custom Rovo agent. But that thing I said about being able to create a Forge app in minutes, what it's doing right now, and by the way, this is how all Forge apps are created. Like even the most amazing apps you might find in the marketplace today, like the most complex apps, they all started just like this. Forge create, they gave it a name, they chose a category, and then they start building from there. So right now what it's doing, it's downloading like a scaffold or a template of an app. It's going to download it to my laptop, and then I'm going to go in there and kind of show you around just a little bit as to what it did. And then once we have it it should just maybe take another 10 seconds or so. We'll be able to deploy it and then install it. Come on, let's go. Still creating. This is the worst part about live demos, because like if I were to do this, if I were not on this at this ACE meeting, it would have it probably would have been done by now. But this is an extraordinary amount of time it's taking. One moment. Am I like stuck somewhere else here? Oh, there we go. Okay, so it created Hello Kenya. It says your app is ready to work on. I'll make it even bigger. And I'm going to go inside this directory. Let's take a look inside. It downloaded all of these things. So let's just take a look at what this little simple app does. Let me go into my code editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and here it is. Make this big. A Forge app. Every Forge app has this thing called a manifest. It's a YAML file, and this is essentially the blueprint for our app. So there's the name of our app, and then some other things. So I'm not going to get into all of this. I'm just going to take a look at the code really quick. It's going to say hello world. Okay, great. So now that we're there, let's go back to my terminal, and I'm going to kind of put them all in the same window here. And I did a Forge create. I'm just going to do a Forge deploy. What this is going to do, it's going to do some basic syntax checking. Then it's going to bundle all of my code that's here on the left-hand side, and it's going to deploy it into Atlassian Cloud. This would be the equivalent of taking your entire app, and let's say you were on Amazon EC2, hosting platform, uploading all of those things into into a cloud hosting environment. And once it's deployed, it's not going to be visible quite yet. We need to install it onto my test instance. This would be the equivalent of going to the Atlassian marketplace and installing an app. So now it's been deployed. I'm going to type in Forge install, and I'm going to pop it onto Jira and type in, let's say, mansilla.atlassian.net. This is just one of my many testing instances. I'm going to say yes, and we'll head over to my test instance. Great, it says it's there. Let's go open up a browser and go to mansilla.atlassian.net, and let's go see what does this app do. Let's take a look at this, and we'll hop into. Let's just really zoom in so you can see. Close all this stuff out, and if I go to apps, you'll see this thing Hello Kenya, and I chose an issue panel, and there it is. It just created this little issue panel, and all it's going to say is "Hello World" a couple of times, right? And I mean, I know it's not amazing, but like literally, this is the canvas that we chose, which was the issue panel. And let's say I wanted to make a really quick change. Let's go and make this thing say, instead of just "Hello World," we wanted to say, "Hello everyone in Kenya." Okay, and let's put a little Kenya flag there, and I'm going to save this. And check this out. I'm going to type in Forge tunnel, so I don't have to spend all the time redeploying it. This is actually going to pull, essentially kind of like hot load my code from my computer and intercept all requests for my Forge app. So let's go back once this thing is ready, ready for requests, listening for requests. Now let's imagine I reload this thing. And look at that, instantly, it's there. Very basic, I know, but like I said, within minutes, we were able to go from scratch. And if there were 20,000 users on my instance, they could all have, they'd be able to see this, right? And as I go, as I traverse away from and come back to this ticket, this issue panel will be here. So that was creating an app from scratch. Now, again, that was an issue panel. There's all kinds of ways to integrate within the UI. So if I go to developer.atlassian.com and I went to build a Forge app, and I go to reference, modules, Jira modules, that was issue panel, right? And as you can see, like this, it tells you like, hey, this is what you would have to have in your manifest. And this is kind of what it looks like. Well, there's other things you can do. If you wanted to create a dashboard gadget, if you wanted to create a custom field, like I mentioned earlier, there's examples on how to do that, on how to do these things. Issue activity. There's all different ways to build here. If I wanted to be somewhere in this activity tab, you can put stuff inside here as well. So there's all different ways to integrate within the UI, and they're called by adding different modules to the manifest. So again, the reason why it came up as an issue panel is because in our manifest, we literally said we want to use this module Jira issue panel. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a Rovo agent with code. Okay, so let's go into a terminal again. We'll go from scratch here. Okay, so here we go. Let's go Forge, create, and I'm going to call this thing the Kenya agent. And I'm going to, instead of choosing UI kit, I'm going to choose Rovo agent and action. And I'm going to say, I want to create a Rovo agent. Now, very similar to our last time, it's going to download a template. Thank goodness, this was a lot faster. And when I go inside this folder, it's even smaller, right? So let's take a look and see what is the template that it downloaded. Let me find my editor. Here we go. So we have this brand new app called the Kenya agent, and this is the manifest. It looks very similar to the last one, except instead of the Jira issue panel, it's using this module called Rovo agent. And it has a key, which is this unique identifier. This is the name that I typed in on the Forge CLI, description. So this is now very similar to the prompt engineering part of building a Rovo agent without code, but here we're inside. So this is an agent that helps users to love the wonderful country of Kenya. Okay, so prompt. This is where we give it all of its, its mission. You are an agent that absolutely loves the country of Kenya. You will help people to understand the wonderful culture, food, and people of Kenya. What else? If the user talks about any other country, don't insult them, but let them know that Kenya is a lot better than the country they're mentioning. Because there we go. Oh, second. Here we go. I have GitHub Copilot running, which is why it's you might see some autocomplete come on the screen. Let's see if the user hasn't provided a message. Okay, here we go. If the user provides a message that is not related to Kenya, respond with a message that is, and save it to the log. Okay. Conversation starters. Log a message. Let's say, tell me about Kenya and why I should be there. Okay, so basically, we're doing some prompt engineering. We're saying that basically we have a almost like a tourism agent, right? Someone that absolutely loves Kenya. And when we start this conversation, boy, it's going to be all about Kenya. And that's the agent part. The action that it's going to do is it's going to log a message here, and I'll show you where it saves those things. again, this is really just for demonstration purposes to show you. So let's save that. Let's hop back over here. We have the Kenya agent. We did a Forge create, and I'm going to do a Forge deploy. So very similar to our last one. So again, it's doing some syntax checking. Not that there's a lot of code, because most of it was on the prompt side within the manifest. It's going to deploy this thing. And then we need to, our last step is installing it. Oh, what do we have here? Not a lot of additional information. I think I have a syntax error in here somewhere. Let's go back to our manifest and fix this. Maybe too much spaces here. Let's do this. Save. There we go. Let's try it again. So it finds an error when it's linting. Let's see if it passes this time. Let's go with a verbose. Find out what the problem is. Now you can kind of see behind the scenes what this thing is doing. It's making a bunch of API calls. And uploading a bunch of stuff. Let's see. I might have a, here we go. Request ID, agents node. Let me turn this thing off. Let me copy all this. Just give me a moment. Live coding rules. Okay. I wonder if I have some kind of additional text in here that's messing it up. And let's copy that, and then let's undo all of these things and see what where my error could be. Okay, let's just keep it like this. Okay. And wants to promote the country, its culture, and everything about Kenya. Save. Let's just give it a thing like this. Save that. Come on, work. Boy, I tell you, I do these things all day long. The moment I hop on Zoom or hop on a call, this silliness ensues. We have a joke that we have to pray to the demo gods and then make a sacrifice, like an emoji of a volcano and a sheep going into it, and that sometimes helps. I should have done that. All right, it worked this time. So there must have been some kind of character or typo that I had in manifest, but that we're good now. So we deployed it. Now we're going to install it. And this time I am going to use Confluence. I'm going to put it on here. My test instance. Yes. And you notice it's not saying, hey, do you want to give it permission to read anything, to write anything? I haven't given it any permission. So this is just a really kind of a conversational one. So let's go back into our test instance here. Let's go into Confluence. And let's see. Okay. So let's go. Oh, not that one. I need to go into, I'm sorry, this test instance, because I don't have Rovo on the other one. So let's install it again. And I'm going to put it in Confluence here, this one. Yes. Okay, so this is just another test instance of mine. And let's go here and into Confluence. I'll make it bigger. Holiday in Hawaii. And let's create a new, let's find another, I need to get out of here. Oh, here we go. So let's browse the agents, and let's make sure it says, okay, your app is in the environment here. Let's make sure we can find it. And usually it's there it is, the Kenya agent. Here it is. Okay, I went, as you can see, I went to vacation in Hawaii. Where else should I go? I'm hoping this darn thing tells me I should be going to Kenya. Hawaii sounds amazing, but if you're looking for another incredible destination, I highly recommend Kenya. Here are a few reasons. Wildlife safaris, stunning landscapes, rich culture. You notice I didn't tell it that I was thinking about Kenya. We did in our manifest, right? Now, let's say I wanted to log a message for me. So that was the conversation part. What would you like me out log? Please save this message as a log. Now, if any of you are developers, you know how important it is to be able to log information, debug information, just data errors, for instance. And when you go to, let's say I go here to my list of apps, you can do this from the Forge CLI too. But let's go. I have my Kenya agent here. If I go to logs and I go to development, you'll see that it had saved this information. User visited page about a holiday in Hawaii is now considering Kenya as their next travel destination. So I guess what I'm demonstrating here is that you saw that we were able to create a virtual agent using code, even though it's very prompty, like we were providing some prompts for it. There was also an action. This is a very simple action, and this action was, saving something to the logs. Your actions could do other things too. Your actions can make API calls. Your actions can create comments on a page, or they can create pages. They might be able to pull information from some external system, from a Jira. This is like the flexibility that you have when you're building an agent from scratch with code. Additionally, as you saw, when we created that virtual agent with here, we created the curriculum maestro. It's awesome. I mean, it's there for everybody to use, but people can also take a look at what the prompt was. They can go in there and edit this agent. Anyone within the company can kind of see what was what it's made of. When you build an agent, let's say you go to marketplace. If maybe you're not familiar with that either, but if you go to marketplace at Atlassian.com and you found Rovo agents in here that were built by partners, you won't be able to see the prompts or the code because it's hidden because it's a Forge app. So that's another, I guess, maybe an advantage to building something with building a virtual agent with Forge. It does give you the ability to do a lot more complex things with actions, as well as kind of keep everything behind the scenes so they can't actually see all of its capabilities by looking at the prompt. They sure as heck cannot see your source code either. So that's another advantage to building one. So I'm going to head over to the documentation and let's go Rovo. If you ever go to developer.atlassian.com and you look on the left-hand side, there's this learn example apps. And then let's say, I really wanted to build this app for Jira. There's a whole bunch of different sample apps that you could just download. It'll bring you to a repository. You can clone the repository, download the zip file, whatever, and then use it as your own. So I'm going to find a Rovo one that one of my colleagues built. He built a couple. This Jira issue analyst. That's a little complex. I'd like to maybe just go to this one right here because it's pretty easy. And it's a Forge Rovo agent that will pull images from the Google Image API. And let's just take a look. So this is the source code here. I'm going to clone it into Visual Studio Code. Alternatively, you could just go to downloads, download the zip. It'll be a zip file, and then unzip it. And what do I do from there? Well, absolute detailed instructions on what to do. So you can download it, go into the folder. We're gonna install some Node.js libraries. This is the equivalent of Forge Create. We're going to use Forge Register, and it's going to take that existing source code, create a brand new app that I own, create a new app ID in the manifest. And it's almost like, instead of using Forge create and having this hello world scaffold, it's going to use the source code that we just downloaded here. So let's see, did I do that right? I did not yet. Let's go to clone VS Code, and I'm going to open it in my editor. And let's make a new copy. Let's put it inside Nairobi and select here. Okay, so open a new window. Let's close out our agent. And now we have this thing called Rovo render image project. And let's go take a look at the manifest. And so it's a Rovo agent. It has this name here, the Google Serper agent. That's fine. We'll call it the Google image agent. Let's give it a better name. And so again, this was something that one of my colleagues built. So here's his description: a simple agent that extracts key phrases from an article, Confluence article, and formats them for use with a Google Serper API to find relevant references and images. So here's the prompt that my colleague Anmal came up with. You're an AI system tasked with extracting key phrases, blah, 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 going to the Google API. And these are the things that it can do. You're going to read the article text. So this one actually has to read the text that's on a Confluence page and then search images that would be appropriate or relevant to that content. So look at how deep his prompt goes. I mean, it goes very, very deep. And now he has more actions. Our last action was just log, right? That's all we did. We just sent something to log. This one has actions, like one called get content. It fetches the content of a Confluence page. Get references. This will go to the Google Scholar API. And this is get images from the Google Serper API, which is like the Google Image API. So it also has a couple additional things that are both of our two apps that we built from scratch. Our Hello World on the issue panel and our first Rovo Kenya Fanatic agent. Those didn't have permissions defined. This one does. And its scope is it has the ability to read, let me make it bigger, read a Confluence page. And also we have whoever it installs this has to explicitly give permission to hit this backend API that is not, hosted by Atlassian. So you have to be very explicit. So let's follow those instructions again. Let's go back to my browser so that if you have gone to this project, you downloaded it, we went inside of it, we're going to run, Anmal says run npm install. So let's go to a terminal. I'll do it. I'll try to keep it all in the same. Here we go, on the same page here. So he said run npm install. And that was his first command here. This is even more nerve-wracking, live demoing someone else's project. Okay, so let's ignore some of those warnings. And the next command that he tells us to run is forge register. So this, as I said, is the equivalent of using forge create, but instead of like downloading a bunch of code, it's going to use the existing code that we have here that we just downloaded from Bitbucket. And let's give it a name. We'll call it the image finder. So notice, instead of downloading the template, it just registered it. So if I went to developer.atlassian.com and looked at my apps, this should be in there. So, okay, so what's the next command? He says, okay, we need to deploy it. So this is the part of the register command created the app and registered it. Now we need to put it into the cloud. Again, it's going to do some syntax checking. And it's going to bundle up, package up this entire app, again, which is going to be a Rovo agent that has some very specific tasks. Once this thing is deployed, our next step is going to be forge install, which is right here in his instructions. There is an extra step in here, which was, hey, you got to get yourself an API key. I have one. I'm gonna, and then we're gonna save it as something called a forge variable. So they're like environment variables. Okay, look at this. It's deployed. It's there. Great. Now I need to do a forge install. I'm going to put this on Confluence. Let's put it on this one right here. my test instance again. Here we go. Because we have that permission section in our manifest, it's asking us for explicit, like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Your app is going to be installed with the following scopes, or it can read a Confluence page. Your app will exchange data with the following, URLs or hosts. Do you want to continue? Yes. If you make any changes to the manifest, particular material changes, especially in this permissions area, you're going to have to re-authenticate. Give permissions again. Okay, so now it says it's there. The last instruction is this. So I need to set these variables. And so here, and I got to grab my API key, which is, where is that thing? Here it is. Copy. Remind me to cycle this key, because I'm sure this is being recorded. Okay, and there it is. It is now ready to use, I believe, I hope. Let's go to our test instance, and let's change agents. What I'm hoping is that in this list of agents is my image one. I don't see it yet. Let me search for it. Sometimes it takes, Google image agent right there. Oh, no, wait, I don't know which one it is. I'm sorry, I might have done this a couple times. Yep, let's go to Robo image finder. And let's see. Can you, here you go. We'll just use this conversation starter. Can you help me find relevant references for this article? Hopefully I chose the right agent. So now it's invoking this action called get content, invoking action called get references. Please work. And lastly, it should actually fetch images using the API, the Serper image API. There it is. So it did. It's surfing. So it did. So how about some images? Where are my images? There it is. Get images. Should grab, maybe a half a dozen of them or so, hopefully, and can show them here. And they should be, oh boy, that didn't work. Let's try my other one. Let me make sure I'm using the right one. So I'm going to run the Forge tunnel here. This is what happens when you have a demo instance that you do a lot of work on. Let's run this tunnel, and this way I can see, like, is it my, wait, is this, I think I might have an idea what might be going on here. Let's copy all this. Let's just create a new. Oh no, I think it should work. So let's go back to, let's create a new, let's get this other one, browse agents. Google image agent. I think this is the one. So give me images related to this article. So let me look and see. I should see some. There it is. I'm running the tunnel. So now it's actually using my computer instead of the ones deployed in the cloud. And I'm hoping, no images, give them key phrases. I need images for this blog article on Hawaii, surfing, vacation, those kinds of images. By the way, I realize that this is a totally silly demo because you would just go to, go to your favorite image. Wait, it seems no image for given key phrases. Please refine your search criteria. How do I refine my search criteria? Hawaii beaches. This is not how it's supposed to go again. When you do this on your own, I guarantee you it'll work perfectly. It'll work absolutely perfectly the first time. It just, I didn't sacrifice a sheep in my emoji volcano. But you get the idea. And what really should happen here, and what will happen for you, I guarantee it, is that images will pop up and you'll just be able to copy and paste them on there. the upshot of this is that two things. One is that if we go inside the source code, that you can actually see examples of, well, how is it getting the content? How is it getting the content on the left-hand side? It's using the Confluence APIs to do that, right? So it knows the content page that I'm on by looking at the context of like where we are, and then it pulls that information down. Oh, here it is. Failed to post request. So this is why it's getting some. Apparently it did not like the fact that I might have not had my key. Let's just make this thing work. Forge variables list. Okay, so maybe I need to do a forge deploy. Yeah, let's redeploy. I didn't realize. I should have looked at the logs. What the error was is that it's saying it's a 403, that it could not fetch the images from the API. Anyhow, I won't belabor the point here. Maybe it'll work in the background. But so where I was in this code, and this is the code for pulling data down from the different, from the external service of getting references, image references, right? And so a great way to learn is by going to the sample apps that we have on developer.atlassian.com and just going inside the code and taking a look and like, what is this thing doing? When you do a forge create, that can help you a bit, of course, because it'll give you a scaffolded app that will, like you just saw the one that we did where it created an issue panel. Great. But if you want something a little more complex, the sample apps or the example apps go deeper, right? Here's one that's making API calls out. It's supposed to be pulling data in. If it worked, let's try this one more time. If this doesn't work, then maybe we just gotta stop. Let's try this one more time here. Images. I would like images of Hawaii beaches, the things that I have on this Confluence page. Come on, work. Probably in a 403 again. Maybe I just mistyped my API key. Ah, lovely. It was that. I didn't have my API key in there. So, it did this and it provides like, what's the source of this? Okay. Obviously, by the way, disclaimer, this was not intended to be used like something you would actually use in production. Particularly if you have to give attribution, right, to the author of this image. But you can find out like the source of the image. Whoops. Where was I? Of course, I'm totally lost now. But you can find it'll provide the source of the image, etc. So if I were to go to here, back to my page, completely lost it. Okay, here we go. And let's say I was editing this page. Yeah, these may not be Creative Commons licensed, so not intended. This is purely for demo purposes. But I imagine you can search the Google Image API for only things that are in fair use or are copyright wise. But you get the idea here, what it did, of what this thing did. So now we can create these agents that they're Forge apps, and we can make them do any kinds of actions or things like fetching information. There are agents that you'll find even just within here that will, take data from here and just automatically pop it into, insert into page. Look, I just insert in a page and it just put them all right here in my page. I didn't even have to copy and paste anything. It just had this little function here. So anyway, that's the demo for that. And I think that the takeaway for this is that you can, one moment, you can go to developer.atlassian.com and you don't have to necessarily learn how to do everything just by reading the documentation. There's plenty of things that allow you to just kind of learn by example, which is really important, right? I'm going to quickly just talk about some key concepts that might on Forge. So you saw me using this thing called the Forge CLI, the command line interface. Again, this is the tool that we use to create apps, to deploy them, to install them. There's more things that it does. Like I pulled the logs from developer.atlassian.com / and my app observability metrics. I went to the logs. So you can also just type in, Forge logs, and it'll pull those things down. So that's the Forge CLI. This is where kind of it all begins, right? Forge create, etc. What do you need? Just if you haven't done it yet, grab yourself your own cloud test dev instance. They're completely free. I mean, it's like a maximum of 5 users, maximum of 1 JSM agent, etc. But it's nice to have your own like fully functional suite of cloud products: Jira, JSM, Confluence, etc. It's a sandbox, right? It's kind of fun having the keys to the kingdom and knowing that you're not going to mess around with your company's Confluence or Jira instance, which, by the way, I didn't say, but it's really important. Even if you have admin access to your company's Jira or Confluence instance, don't be deploying and installing apps on that instance while you're just kind of messing around. It's best to do it on your own test instance. As I mentioned, everything is in Node. We're programming in Node.js or JavaScript. You're going to find instructions, but you need Node.js installed on your laptop or your desktop computer. Then you're going to install the command, the Forge CLI, and then not required, but using an editor like Visual Studio Code. It's free. It's nice. It does syntax highlighting, and it also has things where you can have like AI coding assistance and do some pretty powerful things like quickly. So again, just go here, grab your own dev instance. Just you can use your work email or personal email, but the most important here is that you give it a unique site name. Okay. And then once you do that, that'll take it just a few minutes. And then step-by-steps in terms of getting Forge installed, you can go to developer.atlassian.com. You can hit this URL. It'll just take you basically to the place where you end up when you click that blue button on developer.atlassian.com. It'll just take you to those step-by-step instructions on how to get everything installed. And then lastly, just so that you visually what's happening here. When we did the Forge create, it created the app locally, and it downloaded the template, and then we deployed it to the cloud with that command. And then the last step was Forge install, which basically put it on on our instance. Okay. All right, swell. Let me see where I am here. Okay, here we go. So, I mean, honestly, it's really easy. I know that totally demo failed, just some really simple oversights, but we were able to create brand new apps, deploy them into the cloud, install them on our instance, test it. If you did it without a hitch that I ran into, each one should take you about 10 minutes to kind of just get it to the working point where you can kind of mess around and play around and edit things. The documentation is super important. It is a site that is packed full of guides, tutorials, and references, etc. I've shown you some of them. Highly recommend you spend some time at developer.atlassian.com, and you're gonna. It's a lot of info to take in, but just use the search function to look for the kind of things that you're trying to do or the areas that you're interested in, and then kind of start there. Just if you want to learn how to build Rovo agents, just go to the top and type in Rovo agent, and it'll bring you to this section here of guided tutorials on how to do these things step by step. And we did one of them, one of the example apps. I highly recommend you just try the other ones out as well. It's a weird paradigm because there's 2 parts of it, right? There's the prompt engineering part that is inside the manifest, and both the one here. Let me pull that up real quick. Like I said, we'll type in Rovo agent. The example app that we just did, the challenge here is you have to grab an API key. It's free, but there's this weather forecaster agent. There's an agent that creates Q&A, like it'll create a series of questions and answers based on the content that's on the Confluence page. This Jira one is a little bit more complex, but it's nice to have something that goes a little bit deeper, right? You can take a look. Very similar to that Google image one we did. There's step-by-step instructions on what to do, get the repo, install, register, npm install, Forge register, Forge deploy, Forge install, etc. And even like a little video on what it does, right? It's going to analyze your Jira issues, and yeah, and you can kind of see what it does behind the scenes by going to the source code. We're not going to do that right now, but like you can see, like it's a pretty great way to learn, I think, right? To have these things at your disposal, and there's a lot of them. So like like I said, we're in the Rovo section. If you're interested in building a Confluence macro with Forge, if you're a developer that wants to build some things that are related to pull requests and Bitbucket, there's example apps for that as well. So highly recommend that you check all those things out. So next steps for you, I think, if particularly based on the show of hands of how many people have not built a Forge app, and you never know, because I know that there's people come to different meetups, different ACE meetings, and maybe you haven't been to other ones where we talked about Forge. Get your free dev instance, install Node.js in the Forge CLI, explore the docs and some sample apps on developer.atlassian.com. This is a really cool way to learn too. It's a little fun. If you go to go.atlassian.com/forge-quest, there's a bunch of like little quests, little games to play in order to like learn, and you learn along the way. So little challenges, and then you end up posting a message up on the community forums, which are here, community.developer.atlassian.com. You are probably familiar with community.atlassian.com, which is freaking amazing. I mean, there's just so many people on there asking about, questions about, products. You might get some developer questions in there as well. Lots of interaction with project with PMMs and PMs from Atlassian, as well as people within the community. Well, there's this tiny version of that community called community.developer.atlassian.com, and it's only about development. So if you get stuck on something, if you're running into a bug, you just don't know what the heck is happening, it's a great place to go. To search first, and then obviously to post. And in there, you'll find not just Atlassians like myself, but you're going to find partners, very experienced developers, partners that have a heck of a lot more experience than I have. Despite the fact that I've been at Atlassian for 7 years, there's been developers building apps on top of the Atlassian platform for over a decade, or maybe 2 decades, right? So lots of great people in there to help you. And if you haven't done this yet, definitely check out the Atlassian developer YouTube channel, because there's just a lot of information on there. We put up some videos of our talks, but then one of my colleagues, Katerina, puts together this thing called the Forge Roundup, where she'll highlight like the coolest things that have shipped in the past couple weeks. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. There's deeper tutorials that you can dig into and watch as well. So definitely check that out and smash that subscribe button. So thanks. That was the talk on Rovo agents. I gotta take a quick break, grab some coffee. But I'm happy right before I run out and grab a coffee for a few minutes. Happy to field any kinds of questions from anyone. And maybe I should even check to see I'm still. Oh, there you all are. Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for going through that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a very detailed presentation. And true to the fact that the developers in the house can agree, the demo gods always act up. So any questions from the room? Can take maybe 5 questions. Yes, that's some please come. Any other question? If you have a question, you can come close because you're using the laptop microphone. Yes. Kindly come forward. For as soon as he comes to ask the question.
So you did mention Rovo earlier, and my question is, how does Rovo integrate with the Forge to extend its functionality with custom apps? And specifically, can developers leverage Forge to build tailored Rovo agents for work or workflows?
Thanks for the question. So, yeah, in fact, before we made Rovo agents with Forge generally available, we opened it up to our partners to kind of get an idea of what they might do. And if you go to marketplace.atlassian.com right now, you can see that there are a handful of apps, probably a couple dozen, in which the partners are now adding Rovo functionality to their apps. So it might be a time tracker app. It might be an app that does, that specializes in procurement or ITSM. And now they've built a Forge agent as a part of that interacts with their app as well as with their existing app, as well as obviously with the instance data as well. So yes, you can. In terms of workflows, well, we're going to be talking about Jira workflows specifically on the next talk and Forge. So I guess maybe my short answer would be yes. But you can. I didn't talk about this, but if any of you are familiar with automation for Jira, or the product-based automation, like here, let me share my screen real quick. So if I were to go to my project settings, let's go into a project. Sorry, this is a fairly new test instance. System, global automation. You can initiate, I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with this, but you can create automation actions within this product UI automation, excuse me, and run functions within your Forge app, right? So I really can't get into the mechanics of it, but you can essentially instantiate or invoke your Forge app from here using these things called web triggers, which we can. So just remember the term web trigger, and if you go to developer.atlassian.com and search for triggers, web triggers. There we go. Not scheduling, I'm just running them. There it is. A web trigger is essentially a way to initiate or invoke code within your Forge app remotely, right? So that's what you can do. You'd use that. So anyway, short answer to all of that great question is yes, you can. There's very little you can't do. So yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, there are two more questions from the audience.
Okay. Hi. I've seen that you're able to build agents directly that are going to be used by the consumers. These are the people who are using any of the Atlassian products. I'm quite curious to know if I can come in and build a builder for you or for the other people, so they can ease in some of the work that they're doing between coming up with cons, coming up with flows and stuff like that. So, and how will that go? Because most of the apps are built to be used directly and not as tools to a means of end. Yes. If you can get an answer to that, then probably I'd be satisfied. Thank you.
Michael, could you actually, maybe I had some difficult time hearing. Could you maybe paraphrase that a bit? Because yeah, I'm having trouble understanding what the crux of the question was.
Yes, close as possible for that.
So my concern was currently I'm building apps that are going to be used directly by someone who's using probably Jira or Confluence.
Yes.
So on the workflows of building the agent itself, I'm going through writing YAML files to define probably how the flows would be like, and probably I'd want to do something visually. It's more enticing, it's easier to do. So I was asking how will that flow be, how will that as a product be built? Because again, I wouldn't be building directly for someone who's using Jira or using Confluence, but I'd be building for someone who's building on top of Forge.
So, I think that if you, I mean, you would describe and prompt engineer the agent as well as you can in natural language. But I think that if there are explicit things that you need to get done or have it do, you would use actions, because then those would all be done in code, as opposed to, so that's the difference. When you're doing, when you're relying on the prompts and the conversation, if all of you here are very familiar when it comes to communicating with a large language model, sometimes there's, it's natural language processing and it does its best. But if you have something that you need to define that is very explicit and you need it to be very exact, that's when you would actually want to use code instead. So you would use a Forge action. But if honestly, if I didn't answer your question clearly, you can shoot me the question in writing, and I can maybe I can grok it better and give you a better answer. Thank you.
Yeah, you will reach out through the email. So good. Next. You guys start with the introduction. What do you do?
Hi, Dennis Baby, just partial engineer student. So my question was, I was trying to deploy robo agents that depicted Trevor Noah's humor.
You need to come close.
Yeah. I tried to deploy a robo agent that depicted Trevor Noah's humor, so it didn't work. Could it be because of the guidelines or set by Atlassian on impersonation?
Which app were you trying to deploy? Was it just an app that you created with Forge Create, or one of the sample apps?
I used the Hello templates. Yes.
Oh, you did, and you ran into an error. And yeah, without seeing what your screen error was, I don't know what it is. There, if you were trying to deploy and you got an error like I did earlier, you could add the -- verbose, and it should tell you like what the problem was. But I'm happy to help you out if you want to copy and paste that and send that to me. I can take a look and see if you're having issues.
Okay.
Good. All right.
Thanks for even trying.
It's trying to depict Trevor Noah humor, so quite interesting. Please come close the laptop.
Oh, okay. So hi, how you doing? My name
Fine,
is
thank you.
Brian.
Yourself?
I'm fine. I'm a student at USAU. So this is my question. So at school we discuss how ecosystems like Forge help software developers like us to become even better developers and to even come up with better solutions. So I don't know if you would mind explaining to me what are some of the characteristics of a good ecosystem, because I want to know, like, okay, if I'm choosing to work with Jira, with Forge, then what are some of the capabilities that it has? What are some of the things that I can do, and what are some of the things that I can, what are some of the solutions that I can come up with using, especially the ecosystem that you guys are providing for us?
Yeah, awesome. Great question. Thank you for asking it. So I'm going to talk about something about the ecosystem that I have not talked about yet, and it would be this. Let me share my screen. I'm not sure if you know this or not, but Atlassian has hundreds of thousands of paying customers, small businesses, medium businesses, and enterprises. And nearly every one of our customers has apps. Like they build them themselves, but they also go to marketplace. It's like an app store, right? Let's say, for instance, I wanted this test management for Jira app, right? This is a partner of ours called XBlend, and they have this app called X-Ray, and you can see it's been installed 32,000 times. And this, I would say, from a business standpoint, imagine being able to build an app and offer it to literally hundreds of thousands of companies, but really it's millions and millions of users, right? So you build an app in the App Store for iOS or on on Google Play, you have access to all of these consumers, like end users and just regular people. When you build an app on the Atlassian marketplace, your audience are businesses, and these are companies that are trying to get work done. And I think that we have all of these different categories of apps that you can build for, and these are addressing needs that that companies have, right? From data analytics, software development, diagramming, design and diagramming. When Scott and Mike, our co-founders, created the company and created Jira, they knew that they couldn't build a product that could satisfy the needs of every single kind of customer in the world, even though they were focusing primarily on software development companies using Jira as like software project management and agile planning, etc. Over the years, all of the Atlassian tools, Jira, Confluence, etc., they've been used by all kinds of different companies, and they knew that they could not make Jira perfect for everyone or Confluence perfect for everyone, so they built it with extensibility in mind. In the early days, partners and customers were modifying the source code because we made it available to our customers. And then they built a plugin architecture, right? And now Forge is essentially a platform for just extending. So I talk, the audiences in terms of like who is using Forge today. Let me just zoom out a little bit. It's used by all kinds of there's all kinds of users that use this. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull something up that can show you. Here we go. Give me a second. So I don't have my slides ready, but really, customers use Forge to customize things for themselves. Partners are building things. Both solution partners, consultants, and marketplace partners that want to put apps here in the marketplace and sell them. Like here, by the way, and to what end? Some apps, yes, are free. You can try it for free, but I mean, the Atlassian marketplace I think it has done over $4 billion in sales, and I think it might be doing $1 billion a year. So imagine there's all of these, companies that they're selling their apps. They're now running in the cloud, and they're charging for these things. So that from a value proposition as an entrepreneur or as a company, like there's that is like our marketplace ecosystem. To speak more broadly, like the reason why I think as a developer why it's so amazing is just look at everything you can do when you go to look at the REST APIs. Oh my gosh, there's just the list of resources goes on and on. But let's say, for instance, the most basic thing are issues, right? Let's say I want to search for issues. The things that you can do with it within the product, you can do here. So if I wanted to search, like the documentation's right here, like how to search for things. If I wanted to update an issue, you just search for update issue. So nearly everything you can do, you can do like with the API. And there's just so many APIs to do all of the things. So I think if you couple the first thing I started with, which was that there is an enormous audience of like users and companies that want and do use apps in the marketplace with the flexibility that Forge and all the REST APIs give you as a developer. I mean, honestly, it's mind blowing. The possibilities are endless of the opportunities here. You'll find about 6,000 apps, maybe, is it? I think maybe 3,000. Yeah, 6,000 apps on the marketplace today, which sounds like a huge number, but it's not. I mean, not every use case is solved, right? And yeah, there's some duplication on there as well. There's more than one app that does diagramming. There's more than one app that does time tracking, etc. So I think the opportunities are just abound. So that's, I think, from a business side and a technical side, particularly with Forge now being completely like hosted and run by Atlassian, you could build an app. You can build an app today that might be great for your startup, but when it's deployed on on the Atlassian platform as a Forge app, what would happen if a 20,000 user instance, a government organization decided, hey, I'm going to try out this app. I'm going to use this app. It's built on Forge. It scales. If it was not built on Forge, you'd have to be having to deal with multi-tenancy, having to deal with scalability, reliability, security, and out of the box, you get those things, right, by building an app on Forge. So anyway, I think that kind of sums it up from a business side and the technical side. They marry very well, right? So yeah, I think that's why it's really exciting, I think, to build stuff on top of the Atlassian platform.
So this is MK here. I have a question about transitioning from Connect. Now that Atlassian announced you're going to discontinue Connect, do you need to rebuild afresh, or is there a way you can actually port your app and just do minimal?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, we about maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago, we launched a framework called Connect, and that was our first official cloud app framework. So if you wanted to build an app for Jira Cloud or Confluence Cloud, you'd build it using this Connect framework. And essentially what it required you to do was host the app on your own. So you would deploy it on Heroku, you would deploy it on Amazon EC2 or any kind of hosting provider. And through iframes and through API calls, it would put that stuff into Jira or Confluence. And so the question here is, well, we've made some announcements as a company that we're really putting all of our eggs into the Forge basket, and that you're going to need to, migrate your app from Connect to Forge. There's no simple answer to it. For some apps, it's very, very simple. For some, depending on how deep and complex the app is. But we have guides on developer.atlassian.com that talk about like incrementally, at a very high level of what you need to do. Where there are instances in which you have there's just a level of complexity that, man, Forge just doesn't do for me today. We're all ears and we want to hear those things. So we've been working with a lot of our partners and helping them, achieve getting their app over to the Forge platform. So yeah, there's no simple answer to that. I think it really depends on how complex your app is. Some partners are not having any problems. Some partners are like, we can never get our thing over to Forge because of this. Those are the things that we need to hear, right? Like, what the heck is blocking you? So yeah, thanks for the question. I see a hand back there.
Yes. Just speak to the...
Okay, my name is Peter, and I've tried to create a Forge app, and I've come across a command by the name Forge login. So I'm wondering if that command is to log into the Atlassian account, or an authentication to the app that I'm creating.
What's the command?
Forge login.
Are you having problems with the Forge login command? Was that
Forge login when creating the Robo agent using the code?
Got it. So I didn't show Forge login because I was already logged in, but let me share my screen for a moment. So if I type in Forge, who am I? It should return who you are logged in as. Okay. And so if you're not logged in, you have to type in Forge login. It's going to ask you for your email address. and then it's going to ask you for an API token, and you just have to paste that in there. The hard part is that you're going to paste it. You're not going to see it. It's not going to echo it back. And where do you get that from? You get that from here. You go to id.atlassian.com. Here and go to profile. That's not it. Sorry, 1 second. Account settings, I'm sorry. And if you go to security and go to API tokens, you can create a new API token. This is a Kenya test. And then there it is. It'll be right there. And then you would paste that in here. So I'm just going to paste it. And there it is. Does that make sense?
Yes. Also, I have another question. Like, what about, like, can you please explain to me further about the food you made and the food API token environments?
So the email and the API token that I just pasted now. Yeah. So it has to be an Atlassian. You have to have an Atlassian account. So if you haven't yet, go to this URL. Do you have an Atlassian account already?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to have to use that email and then grab that API token and paste it. If you're having more issues around this area at the very beginning, very happy to help you. Just reach out to me, and I can literally hop on a Zoom with you so I can see what problem you're having. Is that cool?
It says good.
Cool. All right.
So thank you so much. I think, is there any more questions? Okay, you can sorry? How do you reach him? I have his email, I'll share with you guys. Yes, they're asking how can you be reached?
Yep, you can send me an email, and I'm happy to chat with you guys. Also, when you do have like a deeper technical question, it's really a great idea to post it on community.developer.atlassian.com. If it's a beginner one, you don't want to ask, you're welcome to send me an email and I can help you. But once it gets a little more complex, there's no stupid questions, right? Just ask the question well, and somebody from the community will help you. And as I said, there's people that have even more experience than I have in it because they've been doing this for so long. So we'll finish this Rovo talk. I do have another topic I'm going to present on, which is around workflows in Forge. Show of hands, how many people here? Is anyone here a Jira admin at all? An administrator? No. How about just you're a developer and you use Jira? Anyone? Do you use Jira regularly? So okay, got it. All right, cool. This is going to be. I don't know. It'll be interesting for, I think, maybe half of you, but when you're working on a software project team, and let's say you define your project with a bunch of tickets and work to do, typically there's an administrator that creates workflows so that like tickets are moved from like to do into like work in progress into done, like a very simplified thing. And that might seem like if you use Trello or use some other tools like dragging stuff around, but like at a large enterprise or even a medium-sized company, you just don't want people dragging tickets across the Kanban board, right? There has to be workflows so that work doesn't get lost, work can get picked up, work can be visible by the right people, and workflows can be very, very complex. Startup, no big deal. There's 3 of you working on something, everyone knows what the heck is going on. But when it comes to like a real organization, like of a decent size or a complex project, you use these workflows. They're like rules that are defined by typically like a Jira administrator. So I'm going to hop into that in a demo on what those are and how to use Forge. And why this is kind of a cool topic is because, again, if you have complex, if you ever work for a company that has, you know, multiple teams and or teams that have like a good number of people, you're just going to interface with these things, and sometimes you just have to. It's awesome to know that you have like the power of a platform to do some pretty amazing and complex things. So that's what I'm gonna demo next. Michael, how are we on time?
Yeah, we have like 6 minutes, but we can spare 20 more minutes.
Okay, cool. I just need to take I just need to grab a coffee real quick. So can I take 5 minutes for a second?
Yeah, that means we'll have 17 minutes. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go. That's fine. I'll just be a couple minutes to grab a coffee. When I come back, I'm going to show you guys how workflows work, and I don't know why I think they're cool. I think for the developers that raise their hands, you'll definitely dig this, and it's just another example of kind of showing the extensibility of Forge, and hopefully it can inspire you, like as to what you might use it for. So I'll be right back. Just give me a second. Thank you.
All right. So we are ready whenever you are.
Excellent. Okay. So here we go. So we talked about Rovo, and I'm going to talk about a completely different kind of Forge app. And I know I demoed an app that we put something like an issue panel up onto a Jira issue. This one's going to be a little more obscure because these are things called workflows. So if you're into Agile or DevOps, this will be of interest to you. But even if it's not, I still think getting any more exposure is a very good thing, just so you can kind of see what the heck this platform can do. So what are we looking at here? This is the default set of issue statuses that you get when you create a new software project in Jira Cloud. They represent the life cycle that a bug or a user story has to pass through in order to get to working code into the hands of your customers, right? So they just don't float in space. These are linked together via these things called transitions. So let's say you pick up work from the backlog, right? And you just kind of it moves down or across the page, or of the stacks of work. So it provides an orderly way for issues to progress from one state to another. So these transitions are then executed when you drag an issue from one column to the next on a Jira board, or if you update the status on a view issue screen. So while this is a very simple workflow for a software team, Jira admins use workflows to model all sorts of different processes, from Agile and DevOps workflows to internal and external service desks like procurement and recruiting. Today, there are millions and millions of Jira issues that are transitioned every day across Atlassian Cloud from people just getting work done, right? So one of the really cool things about workflows is that they're extensible. You can customize them with things called workflow modules, and they allow you to gate or make a decision as to whether a transition can occur or take an action after after a transition is dragged from from one state to another. So one of these things, these workflow modules, is called a condition. And a condition, simple check. It just determines whether a user can attempt to execute a transition or not. And there's some built-in ones, like, maybe it's just, the assignee of a ticket can execute a transition. Another one's called separation of duties, and this one prevents a user from performing a transition if they've previously transitioned an issue. Or subtask blocking. Imagine you have some work and there's a bunch of subtasks underneath it. If all that work isn't done underneath, you can have a condition that says, darn it, do not let that thing move from this state to this state because all the other work below it is not done, right? So that's called a condition. Another kind of workflow module is called a validator. And a validator is a slightly more complex check that validates a transition in real time when a user attempts to execute it. So a common use case is field validation, where a validator is going to check to see whether a field is set, and it's going to validate it using some kind of comparative logic or a regular expression. Sometimes we call that pattern matching. And the last kind of workflow module is called a post function. And post functions, they run asynchronously, like after you transition an issue from one state to another, like another status. These are often used to automatically assign an issue to a new user or update a field value. So let's say I drag it from one column to the next, it might update something, or it might clear some values elsewhere. Why is this important, or why do we even do these things? Because we need to make sure that we're tracking our work properly and that things don't fall through the cracks, right? This is the value of all of these things. And if you've been using Jira for a while, this probably seems like really old school to you, but one of the really cool things about workflows, like I said, that they're extensible, right? So you can build your own custom conditions, validators, and post functions with Forge with just a few lines of JavaScript. And that's exciting because it means that you can build custom integrations into your workflows with other systems. So for instance, you can write custom logic that'll validate a field that is filled out correctly, or that linked issues and attachments are in a good state before it moves and transitions to something else. You can even integrate artificial intelligence to boost productivity by, if I try to drag an issue from one state to another, I could maybe make an API call to some AI agent or some AI LLM backend and have it return, have it analyze what the heck is happening, and then decide whether we'll allow that to transition or not, right? So again, what is Forge? It's our rapid app development platform that runs on Atlassian Cloud, super extensible, right? Like this is just another example of the extensibility. So let's build. I'm gonna just I was gonna do it live, but since I'm actually just gonna play a recording of some live coding just so that I know that it goes smoothly. Atlassian, we take reliability like very seriously, right? We use Jira, status page for making status updates, Ops Genie, for sending out notifications for incident management. So whenever incident happens, we need to make sure that everybody is notified when stuff goes wrong. So we have a very sophisticated workflow that manages paging, escalations, communications, post-incident reviews, etc. Right? We're a cloud company, and like this is something that's very important to us. Today, we're going to customize a simplified DevOps incident workflow. So those that don't know, an incident is like when stuff goes wrong. If you ever went to a website and it's a really important one and it's given a 404 or a 500, you better believe there's a team that was notified of these errors and like they're working hard to try to understand what the problem is. We have these, we have issues as well. So incident management is what I'm talking about. In this very, very oversimplified workflow, excuse me, there are two states: when the incident is open in an open state and when it's in a resolved state, right? And once we've restored the service, the issue is transitioned from open to resolved. For the first step, we're going to build a very critical part of our incident workflow. We're going to create a post function that will suggest a cocktail for the incident manager to enjoy after a stressful incident is resolved. So the higher the severity incident, it tends to be more stressful. We're going to increase the severity or how strong the cocktail should be. When I was going to live code this, but I know we're kind of out of time, I was going to customize this so that it was more of the some well-known Kenyan cocktails. But I'm going to jump over to a recording of this. So again, everything starts with Forge create. We're going to create an app here, give it a name, Forge Cocktail Suggester. And here I'm going to go down to Jira and I'm going to look for Jira Workflow Post Function. Okay, so it's just another kind of app. And so if we go inside our editor and take a look at the structure of the app, this is not a UI-based app, right? This is just a post function for a workflow. And let's take a look at the structure. So you see the manifest like we should always have, which is our blueprint. And it's the structure of the app. We're going to update this description. And let's see. And we're just going to add some stuff in here because you're not going to have to do this when you. And after this event, I will send a link to the repo, this demo app here, so you can do this on your own. So right now, this app doesn't do anything. It's just sending a console log. So it's just logging some basic data. So functionally, it's not doing anything at all. So let's get in there and see what we can make this thing do. Let's just add some comments in here. What's the first thing we want this thing to do is we want to determine the severity, like the priority of this issue, right? Because the stronger, and then suggest a cocktail based on the priority. And then we want to add a comment to the issue with the cocktail recommendation. So again, once this issue is resolved, it's first thing we haven't filled in the code yet. We're going to determine the issue priority, suggest a cocktail based on that priority, and then post a comment. So a few cool things are happening here. We're going to get issue information. So let's go to the docs and find out how do we get issue information. It always ends up on the docs. And issue comments. Let's grab. How do we add a comment? We'll put in that code first. So here, this is what's really cool about the docs is that there's a whole lot of copying and pasting that you can do, right? So if we head over here to line 3, this is the command to import the API library to make API calls. Let's put that at the very top. Okay, cool. And now we're just going to type in npm install to make sure that we get that in there. Okay, next, we're just going to copy and paste all of this. So this is a sample API call and some code on how to add a comment. So let's just paste this here after the third comment, and boom. So you see a few of these squiggly lines, which basically means there's probably some syntax errors or some logic errors we need to address. We're going to clean this up a little bit, get rid of some of this extraneous stuff. We just want a basic comment. Okay. Just some placeholder text. Let's change that. So we want to add a comment with a cocktail suggestion. Nice work. You deserve a, and then we'll create a new variable here called cocktail. And for now, let's just add, we'll just make it static, right? We'll say the cocktail is equal to a martini. It's funny because I don't really drink a whole lot. So here we go. Let's go with the martini. Let's address this. What's the problem here? Oh wait, so we need to make this async. Perfect. Okay. And we're going to make the call not as the user. So you can make an API call as the app or as a user that's logged in. Since this is running kind of in the background, we want to make the call as an app instead, because there's no really user context. When somebody drags this thing in, it's kind of running in the background. So let's just do that. And we need to make this a variable too. Issue key or ID. We'll just call it issue.key. Okay. Perfect. And so right now, as it stands, it's going to console log a few things. Let's deploy this. And then we're going to install it. So forgot something here. To add a comment, we need to add a permission or a scope. So we need to go to the manifest and let's put that in here. So this app could read work, but it could not write work, which means it could not have added that comment. So let's redeploy. Perfect. And now we're going to install it on our test instance. Those are the permissions it's asking. Hey, you sure you want this thing to be able to do these things? We're going to answer yes. And now when we try to drag something over from one state, from open to resolved, it's not going to do anything yet because we haven't added. So this is similar to, remember, we built a Forge app that was a Rovo agent. This is kind of another specialized Forge app. This one is a workflow. So you actually add your Forge app here. So we're going to go to this visual part and go to post function, because that's what we created. And in this view, we should go, by default, there's always like 5 default post functions. We're going to add our post function. Hopefully it's in there to find it. And there it is, the Forge cocktail suggester. So that's where your Forge app lives, right? It's not in anywhere else. It's only in this workflow editor. And we add it. And now we publish this thing. And we do not want to save a backup. Let's just go. And what we want to see here is that when we move an issue, we transition it from open to resolved. Let's go here, move it to resolve. A comment should show up. And the comment should be, there it is. Nice work. You deserve a martini, right? Awesome. So it did that. it didn't really look at the priority or the severity at all. We just had it static, remember? So if we go back to our code, there's some other things we need to do here. So it's not suggesting it on priority. So first of all, we need to fetch the priority. And this is where we're going to use the get issue API. So back to that question about like, the power and value of the ecosystem, or the platform, I should say, like this is it right here. I mean, anything you could do in this case. So here, get issue. Let's just copy and paste this code. We don't need line 3 because we already imported that. So look at that. That's the code it takes to make an API call to fetch issues. Paste that in there. And we need a little cleanup in here. No big deal. We're going to make the API call. Get rid of this. Yeah, because we have response twice. Let's get rid of some of these console logs and go up here. See, where are we? There we go. We need the issue key again. And what we're doing here is now, notice it's a difference. It's a different API call we're getting. First one we did was we created a new comment. Here we're fetching an issue. It needs this scope. I think that we already have that in our manifest right there, so no need to add that again. Okay. And we're just console logging out like what the response is. So we're gonna use the tunnel again so we can kind of do some rapid iterations on this. And well, you can tell this is recorded a little while ago. So here we go. Let's go and try to transition. So let's move it back into unresolved open. And if we retransition it, it's going to say the same thing because we didn't change any of the code around the drink suggestion. But what we did do is we made an API call to get. Oh, and there it is. So we console logged it out. So if you look here, it has a whole bunch of JSON, a huge JSON response. But what's important? What are we looking for? We're looking for the priority, right? And in fact, we're looking for something more specific, the priority name, high. So what are all of the different priorities? I think we have high, low, and medium. So let's instead of just console logging out the whole payload of getting the issue, let's take a look at we're going to take a look at the priority here. We're going to fetch that. And now based on the, we're going to create a map between the priority name and the cocktail we're going to suggest. So what do we have? We have low, medium, high, and this is bad. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Low, we'll suggest a shandy, a beer with some lemonade. Medium, we'll suggest a rum and coke. A high severity issue, and it gets resolved, we'll suggest that martini. And if this is bad, the worst kind of incident, we're going to suggest a Long Island iced tea. Okay. Oh, and then you got to put in the priority here. So this is, again, this is a map, right? That kind of goes between what is the priority, what is the corresponding cocktail, and based on the priority, it's going to take these values and pop it into the cocktail variable that we created right there. And so what we're hoping here, we save that. We have the tunnel still running. So we're going to retransition it back to open. And let's change it to this is bad. And now if we resolve it, what we hope to see is our this is bad suggestion, which is nice work. You deserve a Long Island iced tea. So there it is. So that's a perfect example of, you take a look at that code and, what did we do? First, we added a comment just to kind of make sure that we can add a comment. We used the get issue to API method to fetch the issue priority information. And then we created a map that kind of just, suggested the right cocktail, right? So awesome. So now it's ready to go. All we need to do is deploy this thing. And now once it's deployed, it can be installed on any number of apps, right? And this is a workflow post function that we created like in 10 minutes. So what can you do with post functions? Other things you can do, you can create custom paging or escalation logic, right? So it'll page teams based on, incident fields, not necessarily suggest a cocktail, but there are plenty of DevOps use cases, right? So paging the right people. You might want to post something to, or escalate issues to the right people. Make calls to external APIs, right? So if you want to update a status page or Slack, or maybe send out emails, all these things are great for saving time for your incident team, right? You can use post functions to synchronize data with other systems. So if you want to copy issue comments into a post incident review on Confluence, or maybe replicate that data into a CRM or other issue trackers you might be using. This is where Forge is super, super useful, right? Now, something that was simple, that was all contained within Jira workflows, now Forge gives you the ability to do all kinds of things and integrate with key parts of other systems that your company might rely on. So in many cases, Forge is a great replacement for webhooks or scripting, like with API tokens, because the data processing is done in Atlassian Cloud rather than having to have your script, hosted someplace else using some external service. Okay. Hey, Michael, how are we on time? Are we pretty much at limit right now?
Yeah, I think we're out of time.
Oh, all right. No worries. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this up really, really quickly. Again, I'm going to share more. We haven't published these as the source code yet, but there's going to be a project here that will strictly enforce the work in progress limits on it. Like you notice I say, hey, maximum three issues in this column. You drag it, it just turns it red. We can build a Forge app that'll reject the transition of moving something. I'm not even showing my screen, moving something from left to right. Right. So that would be, I'll share that with you guys. And then what else we have here? One moment. So and then we have another one for validators. And then the last example I was going to run through was a integration with OpenAI to send something over to ChatGPT to help construct better user stories. The upshot here is that there are so many things that you can do when it comes to inserting code into the process of Jira workflows. You can do AI field validation. You can summarize threads and attachments. Possibilities are endless. So back to that great question about hey, what's the value of this platform? What's the value of this ecosystem? It's the extensibility is the value. You could pretty much do anything that you can dream of. And there is unlimited amounts of feedback you can get from users of the product, right? So we talked about validators, etc., but there's all kinds of things that you can do here, right? There's pipelines, custom merge checks, dashboard gadgets, things that I have not talked about yet, graphing, storage, there's Forge storage, Forge SQL. It's a very, very comprehensive platform. We talked about Rovo agents, and those agents also have access to all of these things, right? So anyway, I know it's a tough thing to try to cover in a time, even though I know this wasn't very short for you guys. Thanks so much for sticking through all of this. But yeah, this is it's exciting for us to have a new kind of try to usher in a new generation of developers on the Atlassian platform. I think the opportunities and the to skill up to make this part of what what your skills are, either as a software developer or even just as a user or an administrator. Forge is an extremely important thing that I think that you should have in your repertoire, in your skill set, and hopefully. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. Want to get started, just go to go.atlassian.com/forge. Awesome. Well, thanks, everyone. I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Neil. Give it up for Neil. Yeah, not to worry, we can schedule another session, later in the year to ensure that we cover ground. But this was quite insightful. for everyone, and really give some details, because when we use Forge, I think it was still under development and more materials added, but now I can see it's quite comprehensive, covering different Atlassian tools. So thank you so much. And also thank you for joining us over the weekend. I know weekend are quite tough, but thank you so much. Give up once more for. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
You guys too. Take care. Cheers.